Hi guys, Steve Silito here with The Rut, and I've been getting a lot of people asking, how to call turkeys and how I do it. And well, back in the 1970s, just out of high school, I started hunting turkeys in Utah. At that time, there was only 50 people that bought a tag in the whole state of Utah. And there was only two places that I know of at that time you could hunt turkeys, and that was on the Manti Sal Mountains over by Moab, and then also on Cedar Mountain in southern Utah, just east of Cedar City. Well, clear back then, I had nobody to teach me how to hunt turkeys, and I just kind of learned on my own. I remember a few times calling in, or not calling, but sneaking in on birds that weren't even turkeys. I just heard a bird in the tree, and I thought, well, that's probably a turkey, so I'd sneak in on it, and it wasn't. And I learned a long time ago that let's go back to Arizona. It was the first state that I shot a turkey in, and I ended up shooting it from the road. And I said to myself then, I'll never ever shoot a turkey from the road. If I can't call it in, I don't want to shoot it. And that's what I've always done. I've always enjoyed calling turkeys. It's not really the shooting of the turkey, it's calling the turkey. And so I've always wanted to learn how to call and get better at it. And so today I just want to kind of give you a few of the tricks of the trade, I guess, that I have. I like box calls, and I do diaphragm calls and also slate calls, but I really prefer the box call. I think it gives a better sound. It sounds more realistic, sounds more like a hen turkey. And I don't use a lot of different calls. I use more of a purr and more of a cluck, and sometimes I gobble, and I gobble with a box call. But I just kind of want to show you how you use a box call. And what you do is, the bottom part is the base. You just hold your fingers on that. Don't hold the side of the box, because that's where it makes it sound. And so that's where it vibrates. And so you want to hold the base down on the bottom of the box. And then you make your sounds from there. I like to lightly touch the handle. Some people flip the box over and they hold it, different ways. This is just what I prefer. And you have to be aggressive with a box. You don't want to grind it, but you want to be aggressive. You want to hold it and not just kind of lightly touch it. You want to just get in there and work it. And what I like to do first thing in the morning is when the turkey is still in the roost and it's just breaking daylight, I like to just make quiet hen clucks like this. And you just want to be quiet so that they think that the hen's just waking up. Okay, when you first start out calling in the morning, you try to do a locator call, maybe even an owl hoot, maybe a crow call, or even just some soft hen calls. So I call it a wake-up call. And a lot of times you'll get a response off that. If you don't, just kind of hang in there, because they're probably there listening. If you get a response back, you get a gobble in the distance, a lot of times just be quiet, get as close as you can. Don't just start calling and expecting to come to you. Go to them. In nature, the hen is supposed to go to the tom. And what you're trying to do is reverse that. You're trying to get the tom to come to you. So that's kind of the challenge. And a lot of times, especially an old boss gobbler, a big tom is hard to call in because he's used to having the hens come to him. And so a lot of times they'll stand on the hillside and they'll call back to you, but they won't come because they expect you as a hen to come to them. But I like to play every situation is a little bit different, but I like to get in as close as I can, maybe within 100 yards. Depends on the terrain. If it's real thick timber, find yourself that's kind of an open area, and don't get behind the bush. Stand in front or sit down in front of the bush. And I like to lean up against a tree so that you're comfortable. And then if the turkey is coming in from your left, then you want to sit with your body like this. So if he's going to be coming in from this direction, you want to turn your body, if you're right-handed, so that you're holding the gun like this, so it's comfortable for you. What you don't want to be doing is shooting like this. What I like to do with the box call is I find out what he likes. Say I make a call and he just gobbles off that. Every time I make that same call, he'll gobble. Well, then I know that's what he likes, and so I just kind of keep doing that until they get in a little bit closer, and then your movement is gonna tip them off. So you got to be really careful when they get in close. But if he's coming to you and he's fairly close and he's still coming, don't call. If you call, a lot of times they'll stop and they want to see where that sound came from. And so if they're moving and they're coming towards you, just let them come. Just let me tell you, last year, my son and I, we hunted Colorado. And it took us 3 days to find the turkeys. And a lot of it was because the weather, and then some of it was because of the depth of the snow. We couldn't get into every area that we wanted to get into. But I really like this example of how we overcome a lot of adversity to get these two birds. And so on the third day, we looked on the map and I found a spot that looked really good. And so we parked the truck at the top of the canyon, and it was gated off, so we had to walk in. And I told my son we're just going to keep walking until we cut a track or some sign. And we got probably 2 miles walking down the road, hadn't seen anything. And then we came to a side road, so we decided to take that and went more to the north. And all of a sudden I found some fresh signs, some turkey droppings. And went a little bit further and started seeing some tracks. And we got into an area I thought for sure we're going to hear something, and nothing. And finally we got to a stream. And turkeys, just so you know, they like fresh water. And they like streams. So if you find a canyon that's got water in it, that's a good place. That's where you're going to probably find them. Then we came to a canyon. It was just a big, steep, gnarly canyon. And I handed the box call to my son. I said, Chris, you call. I haven't been able to get a gobble, see what you can do. And so he called, and sure enough, got a gobble. And we set up on that bird, and we called that bird for probably close to 2 hours. And nothing. So what we did is we started walking away from it, and it would gobble pretty much every time we called, but it just wouldn't come across that canyon. And always remember that if you got a stream or an obstruction, a fence line, a lot of times they won't come across that. And so what this bird was doing is it would come down to the edge of the cliff that goes down into where the river is, but he wouldn't come across. And so we started walking away. And he could tell that we were going further, and he walked down the canyon, kind of paralleled us down the canyon for a little ways. And then finally we set up on him, because we could kind of tell that maybe he was a little more interested. So I looked through the timber across on the other side of the canyon, and I could see this little black dot. And so I pulled up binoculars and I looked at it, and sure enough it was a strutting tom. And I watched him come down that canyon. I thought to my son Chris, I said, he's coming. So we got all set up, and then all of a sudden I heard him gobble again, and I could tell he was on the same side of the hill up from us, so he had crossed the river. And sure enough, in probably another 5 minutes, he was right in front of us, and Christopher shot him. And we looked at, I have a Fitbit, and when we got back to the truck, we had walked 9 miles. So you've got to sometimes work really hard to get one. Sometimes it's really easy. But a lot of the times you have to work for it, especially in the west when you're hunting Merriam's turkeys in the high altitudes. The next day, we came in to the same area, but this time we thought we'd be smart. We'll get at the top of the canyon. We'll get on the other side of the river and walk down that side of the canyon, and hopefully, they'll be on that side. Well, we walked in, got into an area that looked really good, and it was just breaking daylight. And sure enough, I looked around. I go, this is where that gobbler from the day before. This is where he came off the hill. So we're in the perfect position, right where they were the day before. So I got out the box call and let out some calls, and sure enough, we got a gobble off to our right, and we headed towards it, and got right over, and it was dropped off into a big canyon. And of course, that river was down there, and that gobbler was on the other side. He was standing where we were the day before when we called in the turkey for Chris. So started working. Chris got behind me and he started calling, and I had my black powder muzzleloader, and we set up in a spot that was fairly open, and I had some rocks behind me, and anyway, he just, every time we'd call, he'd gobble. Christopher would call and he'd gobble, and pretty soon there's another one gobbling. There's two, and of course they're doing the same thing they did the day before. They're just going back and forth on the other side of that canyon. And after a while, we figured there was at least 4 gobblers came in, and they all kind of were in the same area, right straight across the canyon from us. And then I noticed that, I started calling a little bit too, so that both of us were calling, which helps a lot. A lot of times makes the tom a little more excited, because he knows that there's more than one hen over there. So it worked its way down the hill. We could kind of tell that some of them were coming down, and then all of a sudden right below us, I could tell that one gobbled right down below us. And it was not more than 5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. Here he come, and he kind of turned and went to my left, and I had a bad angle. I thought he'd come in from over here, and he came in from here, so I'm not set up right. So I had to wait till he got all the way to my left, to his right, and I shot him. But that turkey took about 2 hours to call in. So what I'm trying to explain here is, don't give up. Sometimes they'll quit calling, and sometimes that means they're coming to you. So if they quit calling, hang in there, because they might be coming. Then sometimes they get kind of bored with you and they walk off. So just reposition yourself, go to another area, maybe circle around and try it again. But when we left that area, walked back with that tom to the truck, we'd walked 11 miles that day. So just kind of give you an idea, especially hunting Merriam's turkeys in the west, in the mountains, you're going to have to earn it. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about locator calls. A lot of times, first thing in the morning, I'll use an owl hoot, and you just blow into it, and it'll make them gobble. Or if you have a crow call, you blow in it a couple of times, and it'll cause them to gobble. I've even had it in years past where you slam a door on a truck and they gobble. I got to tell you another quick story. One time I was in New Mexico, and I was with a friend, and this is back in the 90s, and we were fairly close to the main road. It was probably a mile away, but in the distance you could hear this truck come down the road. And back then, the older trucks, their tailgate would rattle. And every time they'd hit a bump, the tailgate would rattle. And every time it would rattle, the tom would gobble. So there's a lot of things that make them gobble. The trick is to call them in, though, and to me, that's where the fun is. It's not shooting the turkey, it's calling them in. Now, there's some calls I like to do. A lot of times it's just a cluck. Sometimes I'll do a purr and a cluck with it. So you just kind of really slowly go across the top of the box. And I'll put a fast cluck at the end. So I'll do that a few times. And a lot of times right at the end of that cluck at the end, they gobble. So that's a good call. I use that a lot. And a lot of times I use the other side of the box, so it makes him think that there's two hens. So you hit this side, that's one hen, and then the other side, that's another hen. So he thinks there's two hens over there. The other thing I like to do too is, especially for a locator call, is to make a gobble. And you can gobble with a box call, and not all box calls can do a gobble. Some of them you'll find you can't do it, but this particular box, I've used it a lot, and I use it to locate turkeys. And you just go really fast back and forth. So it locates the gobbler, and depending on the distance, then I'll say he's real close. I'll just start doing some hen calls. But even sometimes when they're coming in and they're kind of holding up and they're not coming to you, I'll do a gobble, and then a lot of times they'll gobble right back, and it gets them excited, and it'll hopefully bring them in close enough for a shot. I have this box here. I've got a lot of boxes that have marks on the back. What I do is every time I call a turkey in to close enough that I figured it would have been one that I could have shot, I mark on the back. And like up the top it says Tom's, and I mark every time I've called in a Tom. And then below that it says Jake, and every time I've called in a Jake I've marked it. And then below that it says hen, and every time I've called in a hen I mark it. And then right below that it says bow kill. So there's this box has killed 2 Toms with a bow, and then just kill is with shotgun or black powder muzzleloader, because we use a black powder muzzleloader a lot, my son and I now. We just enjoy it. It does a really good job, and the gun's a little bit lighter, so you can pack it longer. And I have a night. Christopher has a night black powder shotgun, and then I also have a white black powder shotgun. I really prefer it because it's super lightweight, but I've shot them with both guns. I just want to thank all you guys for coming to see our website, The Rut, and follow us on the YouTube and on Facebook and on Instagram. And we'll come out. I'll do some more videos on turkey hunting and elk hunting and calling elk, and also Africa. We'll have some segments on Africa. So subscribe to YouTube for us, and come back because we'll have more. This year we're going to the state of Washington, and so tune in and check us out. Thanks.